Good morning. Hi, friends. Happy Monday. My name is Libby, and welcome to my audio journal, Finding Joy in the Shadows, where I spend time each week talking about the fun curveballs life throws our way and help us look for pockets of joy. This is also an opportunity for me to continue working through my own stuff while sharing ways to help anyone who might be listening work through some areas in your own life that you might be struggling with as well, so that we can all find joy together. For today's conversation, I wanted to talk about forgiveness and how we can apply it to events from our own past so that we can make room for more joy in our future. But before we get started, per usual, let's go ahead and spend some time catching up on a few recent happenings, or as Jackson, my nephew, likes to call them, Libby's problems. Now, by the time this episode airs, we will be well into 2025, but at the time I am recording this, Christmas was just a couple of days ago. My mom was in town and I got to spend every day with my family. I know, yay me. But it was actually a really nice time. We had a good couple of days. We did get some snow right before the holiday, so we had our white Christmas, which made me personally very happy. I also decided to hire a photographer to capture our growing family, and I am so happy I did. I highly recommend it to anyone listening. Last time, the last time my family had taken a family photo, I think was when I was in eighth grade, so like circa 1994. So it was long overdue. Shout out to the lovely and talented Miss Maggie Pool Photography right here in Plymouth, Minnesota. She gave us some of the most beautiful pictures we have ever taken. Maggie is calm, patient, and incredibly talented. She's taken professional headshots of me. She's taken pictures of Malulu Joy and has even used my niece Abby as her muse a few times. So we're not biased. When we see talent, we just know. So thank you, Maggie. I'm proud to say, though, I didn't overdo it with holiday junk food this year. Yes, I know calories don't count the week between Christmas and New Year's, but I still didn't go crazy like I usually do. Now, don't get me wrong. I ate without a shred of guilt, but I actually found myself for the first time ever stopping when I felt full. No, right? Quite the little miracle when there are so many delicious options out there. And my sister Rebecca did not help in that matter because Homegirl is one of the best bakers I know. And she went all out this year with every type of cookie and candy she could think of. And let me tell you, having the strength to stop after just three or four is quite the feat. And I might just have to add it to my resume. No joke. So Christmas was just a couple of days ago. And as I am recording this episode, we are on day 2 or day 3 of some of the eeriest fog I have ever seen. Now, yes, Drew, if you are listening, I know how fog works. I know how science works. But hear me out. What if all the conspiracy theories online are true? What if we really are jumping timelines? That would be kind of cool, right? I mean, how else would you explain fog that lingers for days and days, apparently all over the globe? So I don't know. There was a whole scary movie about this, I think, called The Fog and Everything. Now, again, not saying I really believe that, but sometimes it is kind of fun to just dip a toe in the conspiracy side of social media just to see what everybody's saying. So I like to play over in that sandbox sometimes. But Minnesota's weather has been given some serious Halloween vibes the last couple of days, and it is not helping with that in between Christmas and New Year's brain fog we always feel this time of year anyway. I will say I am grateful that my company closes the week between Christmas and New Year's because it's giving me an opportunity to just sleep, relax, not really pay too much attention what's going on in the world, and just catch up on some much needed rest. I will say, though, on a somber note, there were 2 tragic plane crashes within just 4 days of each other around the Christmas holiday. And so my heart goes out to all of those families that were impacted. I know by the time this airs, it will be, a couple of months since those events took place, but hope those families are still healing from that. We also lost President Jimmy Carter as When this episode airs, his funeral will probably have already passed. And regardless of how people judge his presidency, ultimately, no one will question his character. He truly was a good man, and he will be deeply missed. So, like I mentioned, Christmas was just last week. New Year's Eve will be tomorrow. And since my company closes for the week between Christmas and New Year's, and now that my mom is back home and there's no one else around me has the this week off, I have fully embraced my inner slug. Saturday and Sunday were spent entirely on my couch. Legit, only got up to eat and use the bathroom. I wish I were kidding, but I am not. I took a few naps, binged a couple of shows that have been on my watch list for a couple of months now, one being Abbott Elementary and The Man on the Inside. Both were fantastic. I highly recommend them. Abbott Elementary is as funny as everyone says it is. I binged all 4 seasons on Hulu. Actually, I think it's only 4.5. So they still have the other half of season 4 to come out in the new year. And I will have to say, my new spiritual icon is the actress that plays Ava, who is the principal in the school. I want to be just like her when I grow up. I want her personality. I want her attitude. I just want to be her if I can. Another show I binged was a show on Netflix called The Man on the Inside. And it comes from the same creator who gave us Brooklyn Nine-Nine and The Good Place. So you know it's good. It's only 8 episodes. So very easy to binge in one day, which is what I did. Again, zero regrets. I will say the show tugged on the heartstrings a few times, but overall just made my heart really happy while I was watching it. So 2 thumbs up. Okay. I can't think of any other topics or Libby's problems that were on my radar last week. So let's go ahead and dive in. As always, I've got my iced coffee in hand with a little cinnamon sprinkled in on top. If you know, you know. And if you caught last week's episode about my rituals, then you definitely know. I will say Lulu Joy is here today somewhere. I can't see her, but she is here. I know I am being a risk taker. So we'll see how quickly I can read through this before she wakes up and speaks her mind. If anyone listening has ever wondered how opinionated a 4-pound Yorkie can be, highly recommend checking out my Instagram page at Libby's Audio Journal. I posted a video of some opinions she had when my mom tried snuggling with one of her blankets. And let's just say homegirl was not happy. And she let grandma know that she was not happy, that she was borrowing one of her blankets. Okay, for the rest of our time together, we are going to dive into the topic of forgiveness. Specifically, how we can apply this concept to letting go of the past to make room for more joy in our future. This idea has been showing up repeatedly in my life through conversations with family, friends, colleagues, and even some strangers. And I always say the universe speaks to us, and I try to pay attention to these patterns and clues it sends me. So when this topic kept resurfacing over a period of 2-3 months, I took it as a sign that others might benefit from hearing how I have approached and handled forgiveness. Now, as always, I want to be clear. I am not a therapist or a relationship expert. I am simply using my personal experiences as a guide for this conversation. I have faced my share of ups, downs, and traumas, things I wouldn't wish on anyone. And I know there are some of you listening who might have had to endure even worse. And so this episode is in no way, shape, or form about fixing society or erasing the bad things that may have happened to us. It's a way of offering a path to help anyone who might be listening take small steps towards healing so that we can make room for joy in our lives in the future. And if at any point this feels overwhelming, please feel free to skip ahead or reach out to a professional. Okay? Promise? Okay. So first, let's talk about the word forgive. According to Mrs. Google, the term forgive means to stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake. It involves the intentional decision to let go of resentment and anger. I'm going to say that again. According to Mrs. Google, the term forgive means to stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake. It involves the intentional decision to let go of resentment and anger. Notice that nowhere does it say anything about receiving an apology. Forgiveness is a solo decision. It's about you. You are the one making the intentional choice to release resentment. It's not about reciprocation, nor does forgiveness automatically require or equal an apology has taken place. I want to make this point very clear. Forgiveness and giving or receiving an apology are two completely different things. Forgiveness is an internal process. It is your decision to let go of resentment towards someone who you feel has wronged you. An apology, on the other hand, is the act of expressing regret for a wrongdoing. You can have forgiveness without an apology, and you can have an apology without forgiveness. Does that make sense? Forgiveness is one of the hardest things we can do. Why is it so hard? Well, from my experience, not only from how I have felt about it in the past, but how I know others around me view it as well, many believe that forgiveness does or should require an apology because they see themselves as the sole victim of their circumstance that they are in. And if someone is viewing themselves only as the victim, focusing entirely on what was done to them, well, then it's easy to see why many struggle to acknowledge their role in the situation. Letting go of the victim mentality means taking ownership of your part in the argument, the fight, or the conflict. Without forgiveness, these strong emotions tied to the person, people, or event may fade over time, but the anger and hurt will continue to linger beneath the surface. Forgiveness is one of the hardest things we can do. Why is it so hard? Well, many feel at some point, I was part of that category of many, and I know there are people around me that are still in that thought process, still in this thought process. But many believe that forgiveness does or should require an apology because they see themselves as the sole victim of their circumstance. And if we are viewing ourselves only as the victim, focusing entirely on what was done to us, well, then it's easy to see why many struggle to acknowledge their role in the situation. Letting go of the victim mentality means taking ownership for our part in the argument, the fight, or the conflict. Without forgiveness, these strong emotions tied to the person, people, or event may fade over time, but the anger and hurt will continue to linger beneath the surface. Unresolved pain doesn't just disappear. You are not going to wake up one morning and poof, all that anger and hurt is gone, like in a Lifetime or Hallmark movie. It stays with us, showing up in future situations and building over time if we ignore it. If we don't confront these feelings, they will linger and take considerable time and effort to work through, often requiring lots of therapy and therefore prolonging our healing process. Unresolved pain won't just stay hidden either. It sometimes can manifest as a physical illness or mysterious aches and pains, serving as a reminder of the emotional weight we are carrying. This is why forgiveness is so essential. It allows us to release the emotional burden and the toll it takes on both our minds and bodies, helping us move forward with peace of mind and a healthier sense of well-being. So let's talk about this victim mentality for a moment. Why is it so easy to fall into this poor me mindset when we find ourselves in conflict? Well, I think we can all agree it's because playing the victim allows us to focus solely on our pain without having to consider for even a second the bigger picture or our role in a situation. And clinging to this victim card is a way to justify our feelings and then also shield us from the discomfort of self-reflection. While this mindset may feel validating at first, I get it. It feels good to vent to our friends and family about what happened, right? However, staying in this mindset will ultimately keep us trapped in the resentment stage, preventing us from taking the steps needed to heal and eventually move forward. But what if we paused and took a deeper look at these situations? What if instead of staying stuck in our pain, we challenged ourselves to see the full picture? And that's something that I want to explore here for a moment. I want you to think of a time when someone may have wronged you. What happened? What did they do? What did they say to you? How did they act toward you? It's so easy to view these moments through the lens of poor me, the victim, focusing solely on the pain and unfairness of what we feel was done to us or perceived to have been done to us. But now I want to take a step further and I want to challenge you. And I want to ask you to reflect on the other person involved in that moment. Remember, this is a podcast, so I can't see you. You can be as honest as you want. What might have been going on in their life at that time? What would they say you did to them? What would they say you said? How would they describe how you acted toward them? When we take a moment to view conflict from the other person's perspective, it can really shift how we see things, right? When it comes to conflict, one lesson I have certainly learned is that whether the argument happened yesterday or years ago, there is always our side of the story, their side of the story, and the truth usually lies somewhere in the middle. Forgiveness, I believe, isn't just about understanding our own perspective. It's about trying to understand the other person's perspective as well. Part of this healing process is humanizing the situation, acknowledging not just our pain, but also their struggles, their emotions, or their experiences. Just as we are often stunned by how someone could hurt us, we must also consider what they might have been feeling or going through at the time. Now, this doesn't justify anyone's actions, but when emotions run high and people start acting out or saying hurtful things, it often means both sides were deeply hurt by one another. Recognizing this can help us release the grip of anger and view the situation with a little bit more clarity and compassion. I have personally applied this exercise to my own life, from reflecting on arguments I had with my siblings and my parents from my childhood to addressing conflicts I experienced as recently as last year. Taking a step back, setting aside how I felt, and asking myself what the other person might have been experiencing at that time helped me to humanize their interactions. And this in turn lessened the anger I was still holding on to. When I spend time reflecting on conflicts with my siblings, I found myself reflecting on the stress and volatility that was taking place within my family household at the time of those arguments. So if I was dealing with a level of chaos and unpredictability in my home, how were my siblings then managing that same level of stress in that same volatile environment? And how might that stress have spilled over into the conflict that we had that I still remember to this day? These questions shifted my perspective. I started asking if I felt this way about the situation because of what was happening in our household at the time. Well, then how was my sibling dealing with that same stress? Just because I experienced something one way as a child doesn't mean my siblings weren't also struggling with the same circumstances in their own way. While our conflict clearly wasn't desirable, and it was clearly significant enough that I remember it into adulthood, I couldn't ignore the fact that my sibling was also navigating their own challenges. And this perspective does not erase future strife or invalidate how they made me feel still at that moment, but humanizing the situation allowed me to release the anger I had still been holding on to. And when I let that anger go, that's when I found a path forward toward forgiveness. I also applied this to my parents. In August of last year, I spent some time down in Florida with my mom and my grandma. And during a walk on the beach, my mom found herself apologizing for certain situation and how certain events played out when I was a kid. The details don't really matter. I didn't live a charmed life. I don't think that's a shock to anyone. But my basic needs were always met. And I am the person I am today because of the experiences I went through. I said these precise words to my mom. You know, you only knew what you knew at the time. I realized that holding on to those pains could have prevented me from finding happiness today. So I let go of any of those grudges I may have had back in the day. I forgave my parents years ago, but this was the first time I stated it out loud to my mom. And it was true. They only knew what they knew at the time. Here's the thing. Our parents aren't perfect. They're human. They're naturally flawed, just like you and just like me. They are also products of the environment they were raised in. So if you're reflecting on a struggle with a parent, ask yourself, well, what were they going through at that time? Did they think they were acting in our best interest based on what they knew? Of course, if any of us had a time machine, we'd go back and do things differently. But that's not life. All we can do is acknowledge our part, honor our feelings, and try to humanize the other person. This helps lessen the anger and resentment we're holding on to. Why is it so important to lessen the anger? Well, it's like that saying, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Letting go of anger takes us one step closer to healing, and it's easier to forgive someone when we're no longer angry at them. Letting go doesn't mean we have to fully understand them or excuse their actions either. It just means understanding them a little bit more. Not a lot, just a little. And that small little shift can help us move a little bit closer to healing and make room for joy. So how can you apply this to your past experiences with family or friends to help you heal and create space for more joy through the power of forgiveness? Start by reflecting on those really big moments that stand out to you. Think about how your siblings, parents, or close friends made you feel during those times. Then take a moment to step back and ask yourself, what might have been going on in their life at that time in that moment? What challenges or stressors could they have been dealing with? Next, turn inward and reflect on your own role in the situation. Were there things you said or did that may have contributed to the possible conflict? This exercise isn't about assigning blame. It's about opening the door to a more compassionate understanding of the dynamics at play. By doing this, we start to release any lingering anger, which will help us move closer to healing. Please keep in mind, this isn't about blaming yourself or letting anyone off the hook. It's simply about humanizing the experience and finding a way to let go of the anger that's been weighing us down. Like I say in almost every episode, baby steps. Start small. Begin by having an honest conversation with yourself. Reflect on the situation and your role in it. Then think about what the other person might have been experiencing at the time. This practice of self-reflection and empathy can help you take the first step towards healing and creating a space for more joy in your life. You don't have to fix everything today or even fully understand every detail of what happened. But taking that first step, acknowledging the pain, finding compassion, and releasing the anger can make a world of difference. And who knows? It might just help you invite more peace and joy into your life. So give it a try. You deserve some lightness. Now, as always, I want to be very clear. Nothing I have said here excuses physical abuse in any way, shape, or form. I'm specifically discussing arguments and conflict that, while challenging or hurtful, did not escalate to physical harm. If you are in danger or need help healing from such experiences, I strongly encourage you to seek guidance from a qualified professional. While some of the principles I have shared here might still be relevant, I am not an expert in that area, and I want to make sure I advocate for you to connect with someone who is more equipped to help. Okay, I think I have babbled on long enough. As always, we will add to this next week. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, has an amazing week, and I look forward to our next chat. Peace out, friends.